So in 2015, a lot of new movies are coming out that I'm really excited about. Like we've got all the Marvel movies, the new Star Wars movie. Jupiter Ascending looks pretty good. And in February, on Valentine's Day, in fact, this movie. Yeah. It started as a fanfiction of the popular series Twilight, in which a girl discovers that her boyfriend is, in fact, a vampire. It spawned a number of derivative works called fanfiction, which was especially popular with the older Twilight fan demographic. One of these was Master of the Universe by fanfiction writer Snow Queen's Ice Dragon, the fic that would later become 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. And reading it, you can kind of see the parallels between the two.
It's you that's changing me.
What if I'm not the hero? What if I'm the bad guy?
I had a rough start in life. You should steer clear of me.
Now, of course, the secret in 50 Shades is not that he's a vampire, but that he's kinky. This is kind of why it's so popular. Now, some people have argued that 50 Shades of Grey is actually subversive, or at the very least, it starts an interesting discussion about women's sexuality, which is something that doesn't get discussed as much in comparison to men. On the other hand, it has been connected with health risks in young women, especially due to eating disorders and partner violence, and some have argued that while it might be transgressive, it actually serves to uphold the institutions of patriarchy and capitalism through being transgressive. Now, I don't agree with that. I think that for something to be transgressive, it has to fight against some existing power structure, like capitalism or patriarchy. So for 50 Shades of Grey to be transgressive, for me, it would have to in some way invalidate that. But is that what happens? The answer is no, and this is why. This is our heroine, Anastasia Steele. Everything in the book is seen through her eyes, and most of what we understand of her is that she is shy, bookish, virginal, and, of course, submissive. Now, besides her, there aren't that many named female characters, and those that do exist are kind of stereotypical. More on that in a second. But there is one woman who completely subverts all of these existing stereotypes about women, and that person is Kate Kavanaugh. Now, throughout the book, Anastasia seems to put women into one of two categories. Either they're a nurturing mother figure, or they are a possible romantic rival, someone to be jealous of and very suspicious of. Except for Kate. Kate doesn't fit into either of these two categories. She's not the nurturing mother figure, but she's also not a romantic rival because she has no interest in Christian Grey. So, if she's not that, and if she's not that, what is she? Well, she's not Anastasia Steele. Anastasia is submissive and quiet. She doesn't really tell anyone when something is bothering her. Whereas Kate is much more aggressive, she's much more exciting and bold. She is the one to tell Christian Grey that he is treating Anastasia poorly, and it is because of this that she is so interesting. Unfortunately, she's treated as kind of a impossible standard to hold a woman up to. It's implied that all of her charisma and energy and aggressiveness is something that is not only unusual, but impossible for someone like Anastasia to achieve. And there's one more thing that makes her very different from Anastasia Steele. She's not the protagonist. Anastasia is supposed to be the ideal woman, something that you're supposed to identify with, someone who you are supposed to want to be. Kate is someone who you're supposed to think that you could never be. Someone who is not just a person who gets together with Christian Grey. So between Anastasia and Kate, even though Kate is technically the more powerful character, she is not the most influential character, and she's not the person who is perpetuating this stereotype that women are supposed to be weak and submissive. Except that she is, because by saying that she is this impossible standard that no one can reach unless they are born into that role, they're saying that you can never be this. You, the reader, you who are supposed to be Anastasia Steele, can never be Kate. So even when it tries to portray a variety of women, it only groups women into one of three categories. Nurturing mother figure, possible romantic rival that we should supposed to dislike, or impossible goddess standard on a pedestal that no one can possibly reach. Now, if Anastasia Steele is supposed to be the ideal woman, what does that say about our ideal man? Well, he's the opposite of her in every possible way.
And it's pretty attractive. He's domineering, he's aloof, he's got a secret emotional side, he's carefully hidden by being emotionally distant, he's aggressive and yet tender. He's an enigma.
He's also a manipulative, controlling, abusive stalker who, at various points in the book, gets her drunk to make her more honest with him, apparently, forces her into a relationship that she has no understanding of, does not actually want, and says repeatedly that she does not want, forbids her from discussing said relationship with any of her friends and family, even though they could possibly help her, and when she goes to visit her parents, to make sure that she's doing the right thing, he follows her even though she told him not to. Because that's what love is, apparently.
You should steer clear of me.
But apparently it's cool because he's rich and has a lot of nice rich people things. So is there anything in 50 Shades that is subversive or transgressive, as people have argued?
I have to say no. Everything about the relationship just reaffirms pre-existing power structures. He's the strong, powerful, manly man, and she is the weak, powerless female. He is financially successful. She works a minimum wage job. There's nothing there that transcends any sort of boundaries. And even if you wanted to argue that it was subversive in a no one has ever thought of this before sort of way, no. People have already done this before. There are already movies about this kind of power structure. Secretary is probably the most recent, but there are certainly a bunch of others. So, it's not subversive. It's not transgressive. It's not particularly unique in its storyline or its content. So, looking at it, it seems pretty insignificant. So, why do we care? Media are constructed, and consequently media constructs reality. Even though we know that what we read or what we watch isn't real, we still end up copying it in our daily lives, and we know that people have copied 50 Shades of Grey in their daily lives. There's a lot of products to help you do just that. So, when we know that it has serious health concerns, and when we know that it's upholding a very toxic system in terms of a relationship, and more broadly, a toxic system of patriarchy, then it becomes concerning.
It's not so insignificant after all.